Good evening, and welcome to our broadcast tonight covering STEP Warmfloor and carpet applications. I want to thank you for your time that you're taking out of your day, whether it be a little bit earlier or later in the evening. We appreciate you taking the time to be with us and go over the product a little bit further. Last week, some of you tuned in to listen to Dennis talk about using STEP Warmfloor under hardwood applications. And tonight we're going to kind of continue on, taking a different route. I'm going to take a look at going under carpet and some of the installation and carpet pads, things like that. If you did miss last week's webinar, it is online, available at heatmyfloors.com. You can pull it up. Also on our YouTube page, if you just search for Heat My Floors on YouTube, you should be able to find it on there as well. A little bit about us, Heat My Floors. We are a subsidiary of Wright Hennepin Cooperative Electric, located right in Rockford, Minnesota. And we're a distributor for electric radiant heating floor products, along with some convect air, Danfoss, some other products as well. Been doing that since about 1996. And we are located just west of the city, is about 30 to 40 minutes right in Minnesota here. A little bit about me. My name is Andy Hoffman. Some of my interests, I like to do a little snowboarding, biking, hunting, traveling. My girlfriend and I do a lot of traveling. And I actually started with Wright Hennepin Electric in October of last year, so I'm actually fairly new, but my primary focus since I've been here has been specifically on this product for about the last 6 months or so. So while I don't have quite the knowledge base that Dennis does, I feel pretty well versed in the product. And I didn't actually know it existed beforehand. I had done a lot of college jobs with pouring concrete, roofing, some landscaping, things like that. So you see a lot of products out there. And to come in here and see this STEP Warmfloor product is pretty unique, and pretty surprised there was something like this out there that existed. And we see a lot of that at home shows too that we do. People come up to us and say they don't really know about it. A little bit about the product, just to recap, or for some of you that aren't familiar with it, it's a low voltage, 24 volt AC or DC, semiconductor plastic radiant heating element. It's very reliable, comes with a 20-year warranty, 10 years on the transformers, and 2 on the controls. And it is a self-regulating element, so it's very efficient, 2 times more efficient than cable, and 2.5 times more efficient than cable, and even 2 times more efficient than hydronic systems. It's very thin and flexible. The widths come in either 12 inches or 9 inches, and the thickness of it is only 3/64 of an inch thick. So it makes it ideal for remodels and retrofit applications, especially under carpet as well, with its thin profile. And it's also very durable. You can nail and staple through the product without causing it to fail, and has a lot of different applications with it, including snow melt, roof melt, primary or supplemental heat, things like that. Taking a look, if we do some comparison, STEP Warmfloor versus electric floor heating cables, which you typically find out there. You're going to find that a lot of the other products aren't going to be suitable under carpet. There's going to be a lot of limitations with them, as far as with the floor temp, you'll typically want to get no hotter than 85 degrees, and a lot of those cable or radiant systems out there will get to hotter than that. Because they have to, they're not covering as much area, so it takes a lot more energy to heat the same amount of space. And then, of course, you're going to run into that risk of overheating as well. You know, typically we find carpet is going to be in a larger area, more likely a living room or a bedroom or things like that. And you're going to have large objects that are heavy, you know, dresser, couches, entertainment stands, things like that. When you put some of these heavier objects over those cable systems, you know, they're obviously going to get a lot hotter than areas that don't have objects over them, and you have that potential for burnout with that. Where the STEP Warmfloor, because it does self-regulate, Once it heats up to that 80, 82 degrees or so, it's physically not going to get any hotter than that. It can't, so we don't have any risk of that. And also, with the operating costs, if you do look at putting cable in a larger system, you're going to find that it's usually quite expensive to operate. Where STEP Warmfloor, we typically say around 60 to 80 cents a square foot for the heating season, so it's very efficient as far as operating costs. Some notes on carpet here. It's naturally warm, and it does act as an insulator, so it's used a lot over concrete because concrete's naturally cool, so to take that cool off the concrete floor, we see a lot of carpet go down, and it does help create efficiency for the house in general because it does insulate. And we've noticed that that can cause problems on the radiant heating side of things as far as preventing heat to coming through. So we're going to kind of cover some different ways we can get around that. Typically, it's installed either a stretch or glue down application. Common pads. There's three basic types of pads out there: polyurethane, rubber, or fiber pads. We'll kind of go through those and let you know which ones work best. And then as far as the carpet itself goes, there's a ton of varieties out there. Usually going to get a broad boom roll, or it'll come in tiles. And the picture on the right there, I found too, it's some snap together carpet tiles. Starting to see some more of those come about. One thing you probably heard about with carpet is VOCs and off-gassing. VOC stands for volatile organic compounds, and what that is whenever you have something new, they're found in furniture, plastics, new cars, clothing, carpet. You can smell that kind of new car smell, if you will, and you can smell the chemicals. And what that is, it's actually the chemicals evaporating from the material. Typically with carpet, it is actually fairly low for off-gassing, but it is something to keep in mind. Usually we see it decrease fairly significantly after several months, and you want to make sure that you're going to ventilate at least 72 hours after installation, and continue to ventilate even for several weeks if you can, just blowing fans around, or if you have a window you can open up, things like that, get some fresh air. And radiant systems can add to this effect. With the evaporation, obviously the heat can cause that to increase. So it's not always a bad idea after you get the carpet down to let it sit and ventilate for a few days or a few hours before you fire up the system and things like that. If you go with CRI, the Carpet and Rug Institute, they do have a green label program where they will label pads and carpets with this green label, and that will signify that that product is low in off-gassing or VOCs. So you want to keep an eye out for those. Now, with selecting a proper pad or a cushion, if we look at polyurethane pads, typically they come in three forms: either prime, bonded, or froth. You'll want to stay away from those prime or bonded pads. You'll see a lot of bonded pads out there. They are the most common. But what you'll find is they have higher R values. There's a lot of air and glue in them. And over time, once those pads wear down, they're really just going to become an insulation barrier to prevent heat passing through them. Froth is regarded as one of the better pads in the industry, just even as general, not even comparing to radiant heat, things like that. But it does a nice job of laterally dispersing the heat. It's got a nice density, and it is at higher quality. That's actually going to typically last longer too. And what's that's going to allow for is even wider spacing of the elements as well, because it does have that nice density where it's going to disperse that heat outwards. Another type, slab rubber and waffle pads out there. Typically we find slab works better than waffled, And again, that kind of has to do with the contact that the elements can make with the pad. With the waffle pads, you're going to have a lot of air in there that will act as that natural insulator and prevent some of that heat from radiating through, where the more contact we can have with the element to the pad, the better the system is going to perform. Typically, we do want to say thinner is better in general for that. If you do find a pad, we're always looking for lower R values, and that will create tighter spacing of the elements, because typically with a lower R value, it's not going to disperse the heat as well. So while it's nice to have that, you still need some sort of mass to disperse that heat and get that in direct contact with the elements. And then the other type here is fiber. And with STEP Warmfloor, you want to pretty much avoid any fiber mat that you're going to find out there. They're going to lack that moisture barrier that we're looking for, which we'll get into in a second. They're going to have a low density, as you can see through the pictures. You know, there's a lot of air in there. However, on the flip side of that, because it is so thin and lacks that density, if you do look at putting the system embedded in cement or a thin set or self-leveler, you would actually want to consider the fiber pad, because it has that thinness, that low density, low R value that you're looking for. So typically, if you do some research on radiant heat, as a lot of systems are embedded in cement, they will actually recommend fiber pads. But for STEP Warmfloor, you will want to avoid them, as we are looking for a moisture barrier. You can see from that image up there, you know, if you spill something on a pad without that moisture barrier, it's going to go right down to the subfloor, which is typically where we're going to have those STEP Warmfloor elements. You know, so if you spill a pop or have a pet accident, things like that, things that leak through, you know, once you heat some of that, it's probably not going to smell the best, and you always have the potential for shorting out the elements, which is okay. You know, you might trip a breaker, things like that. Once it dries, go kick it back on. But just in general, it's you'll always want to look for that moisture barrier if you're not embedding the elements. And also want to, again, look for that low R value and a higher density pad, and consider the thickness that you're working with, what kind of room you have. Sketch below just a quick kind of rundown, some of the typical pads you want to look at, some of the R values and thickness there. So, you know, obviously the thinner and the lower R value you can get, the better off you're going to be with that. So what we recommend, as far as the manufacturer recommends, Healthier Choice and Sponge Cushion are two brands. We'll kind of go into those coming up here too. But you want to look for rubber-backed pads. You want to look for that moisture barrier again, and then the froth pads as well. Always do real well. And then the low VOCs and off-gassing. What you will want to avoid is that prime or the bonded or rebond polyurethane pads. One thing I forgot to mention with those pads as well, a lot of those bonded pads do have adhesives in them, and over time that can be detrimental to the STEP Warmfloor element, cause it not to perform as well. Of course, you want to avoid pads with the higher R value. The fiber pads, we kind of went over that, and obviously anything with a high VOC content and the off-gassing. The main thing is just to always check with your retailer or manufacturer to make sure that the pad and the carpet you choose are rated for radiant. You know, and if you don't know, or if they don't know, feel free to get in touch with us. If we don't know, we'll find the answer. We'll find it out for you. But that's really the main thing, is to just make sure what you're using is rated for radiant. Most of them are, but there are some out there that aren't. One of those recommended pads, again, Healthier Choice here, has low emissions for the best indoor air quality. You're going to get a long performance life out of these pads as well. They are antimicrobial, and they will actually work under carpets, laminates, and hardwoods as well. So really great pad out there, does a nice job of dispersing that heat laterally as well as allowing it to pass through upwards. The other one, sponge cushion, is manufacturer recommended, and they advertise right on their websites. They have the lowest available R values, some of them that you can find. These are 100% synthetic rubber, and also do a nice job of dispersing the heat. And you'll find the RPA, the Radiant Panel Association, does recommend typically these rubber pads to be the best choice to use over radiant floors. So when you're looking at carpeting, you'll want to also think thin with this as well. Combining the carpet and the pad, you'll want to be under an R value of 2.5 if you can. If you combine the R value of the pad on top of the R value of the carpet, it's always nice to be below that mark. And if you are looking for a thicker carpet, it might be nice to consider a thinner pad, or vice versa. If you're going to have a thinner carpet, you can go with that thicker pad. And you can see by the diagram there, the thinner obviously is going to let a lot more radiant heat pass through it than that thicker stuff will insulate the heat and keep it from passing through. Typically we find synthetic will perform better than wool. Wool's that natural insulator, again, with the higher R values. And in some cases it may be better to spend more on the carpet pad itself than the carpet, because really that is going to be what's in direct contact with the heating elements, and you're going to really rely on that to disperse that heat. So jump to insulation. It's especially important to insulate if you can with carpet applications, because carpet is that natural insulator. So if you don't put down some sort of insulation, you're going to find that the system is not, it might not perform to what your customer's expecting, and you're also going to lose a lot of efficiency on the system as well. A common misconception out there is that heat rises. Well, it doesn't. It moves to cold. Hot air rises. So it's always important to, especially if you're going on top of a concrete slab, get down some sort of insulation, not so you have that slab drawing all the heat down through it. And this is another thing too you find with a lot of cable systems. They'll become very efficient if they're just put on the slab, whether it be STEP Warmfloor or the cable, because of that heat sink that can develop. And if you're looking at a slab on grade, you'll also want to consider insulating the perimeter as well. It's just as important, even more so than below grade. You can see in the pictures below a couple examples there. Basement, they put down some polystyrene, it looks like, and then they'll pour a floor over that, or put the elements down, pour the floor over that. If you do have a crawl space you can get to, some spray foam insulation there. And then otherwise, if you have an unfinished basement and you're putting this STEP Warmfloor down on the main level, and you can insulate between the joists, absolutely do that also. So if you can't get beneath the floor and you have to go right on top of that subfloor, a couple different products out there you can look at: cork, polystyrene, artificial or synthetic cork, and what you'll want to do is avoid foils from coming in contact with the elements. It will cause it to short out, and the system will not work well with those. And same with polystyrene. It's sometimes difficult. It's usually a lot thicker than cork or the artificial or synthetic cork to use that polystyrene. But if you have the height room for it, absolutely, the more, the greater R value you can get, the better it's going to perform. Product we carry is called SteriZorb. It comes in a 4x4 sheet, and it's 3/16 of an inch thick, so it's very thin. It's only 5 pounds a sheet, very lightweight as well. It's very easy to work with. It's pretty flexible, and you can cut it to the areas that you need. And it comes with an adhesive back. you just peel it off, stick it right to the subfloor. And this is another product that can actually be used under laminate or engineered wood, as well as a carpet over concrete slabs. And you can install the carpet tack right over the Cerazor product. And one thing too, to help you with the height of the product, not so much the product itself, but the connections and the wiring, is you can notch into your insulation product, create a little valley to run those wires, and keep it off the edges of the room if you want it as well, where you can run your leads in that valley where you don't have the insulation. So when you're looking at installing the elements, typical spacing under carpet is going to be about 5 to 7 inches, but you can go down to 1-inch spacing if it's needed for a heat loss requirement. The max we'll want to go under carpet is going to be 8 inches, and that's really pushing it. You really have to have the right setup for that. Otherwise, you'll find you're going to feel the cold striping. You'll feel where the elements are and they aren't under the carpet pad there. So, and typically we'll use the EP-30-2-24W. That's the 7.8 watt a foot product. That one will only heat up to the 82 degree mark, which is right where we want it under carpet. If we are looking to do a primary heating system and the heat loss does require more watts than what that 7.8 watt product can put out, we can use the 9 watt element in there as well, but typically we don't find ourselves having to do that. And with the wiring, you always want to fail-safe wire it whenever the elements are not embedded in a thin set or a self-leveler or a lightweight concrete, things like that. And we'll give you everything you need as well as far as putting down the elements. All our designs are custom to fit the room. You'll know how many feet of element you need, where you need it, how to space it, and how to wire it. So you'll cut the lengths that you need, lay them out, and then wire them accordingly. And with the fail-safe wiring, it's going to avoid the elements to short out. And like I said, it's always used when we're not embedding the elements in some sort of self-leveler or thin set. And going back to that too, I forgot to mention, if you are going to embed the elements, you can just use the standard parallel wiring and just have the one lead go back to the transformer will work also. As far as securing the elements down, if you can, the easiest way probably to do it is just to staple it right to the subfloor or even to the insulation product, with a staple gun, or even nail it every 2 feet or so to get it to lay flat. If you don't have that option, you can always use hot glue gun, hot melt glue, and just do about a little quarter size every 2 feet or so, just to keep that element down as well. Or if you're going to thin set or do the self-leveler, just follow the industry standards on that. Put down your insulation, put the elements down, and then thin set or self-level right over the top of that. So here's some different diagrams as far as the layers of flooring, how they can be applied. Again, you'll always want to avoid adhesives for glue-down applications, as it's going to affect the performance of the STEP Warmfloor elements. We want to make sure no adhesives or metals come in contact with the elements. So you can see the top application, they were able to insulate below, and then you have the element in some lightweight concrete, and then you do your cushion and then your glue-down pad. If you aren't doing a glue-down, just doing the stretch-in, you can go straight to putting down your insulation, the elements, and then go with the pad and carpet right over the top of it. And then the bottom diagram there shows too, if you're going to work with like carpet tiles, kind of the same deal. You'll want to embed those elements right in a thin set or self-leveler. This would be for an in-slab application here on the top. You can see they were able to insulate as well along that perimeter there to prevent that heat loss. And they did it both inside and outside, which, you know, a lot of times for retrofit you're not going to have that option. But if you can do it inside, it's certainly going to help as well. Another important thing to keep in mind, if you are going to embed the element right in concrete, you'll want to put down a like a 6 mil plastic film. You won't just want to pour the concrete right over the element. Have a like a moisture barrier there. And then on the bottom, kind of same deal there. You know, able to insulate and then go up that perimeter a little bit if you can, just to prevent some of that heat loss as well. So we have here just a picture, kind of gives you an example. They have the thermal insulation down, and then the elements, and then the pad over that. We get a common question, you know, can you go between the pad and the carpet? You know, why can't you do that? Well, most likely what's going to happen is you're going to be able to feel and or see the elements through that carpet, and it's not going to look very well. Also, with that, as I mentioned, we do like to have some sort of mass to heat up. You're really going to feel that striping effect if you do go that route and put the elements above the carpet pad, because the carpet itself isn't going to do a good job of dispersing that heat. So you'll really be able to feel where that heat isn't if you go between the pad and the carpet. So, and then just to give you another example here, the basement. They have the cork insulation down and the elements spaced out there, all wired up, and then you can see they went with the carpet right over the top of that there. As far as the carpet installation goes, really you're just going to prep the floor and install according to industry standards. Again, want to make sure you open up those windows and ventilate real well to take care of some of that VOC and off-gassing. And you always want to test the system before and after the installation is completed, just to make sure nothing shorted out in it, things like that. And like I said, I mean, it doesn't always hurt to let that carpet ventilate a good few hours before you fire up the elements, or even a few days on that. As far as quotes go, this is to give you an idea of the kind of information that we need for to give you a quote here. Type of room isn't too terribly important. What we typically will look for is what you're going to plan on finishing with, or what the application is. That will essentially determine the spacing of the elements and help us design a system and give you a more accurate price there. Subfloor is also going to be important. We'll want to know what you're going to go over, and along with what's below there, you know, if the room's finished, unfinished, you know, do we need to consider insulation, things like that. And the rest of it, you know, 120, 240, you know, that's your choice, what you'd like to hook up. And we can decide that, you know, pretty much at any point before we ship it out. We also will want to know what the approximate distance to the transformer location is, just to be able to account for a voltage drop. And you'll find in our designs, we're going to let you know how far away from that transformer you can be if you don't let us know ahead of time, if they're not sure where they're going to put it. But we can be pretty flexible with that, use terminal blocks if we need to. If we are looking for the system to be the primary source of heat, the bottom half of this here is the heat loss questionnaire, I guess, if you will, that we'll kind of run through with you to make sure that we can design a system that will be able to provide enough heat to be that primary source of heat in the room. And this is just going to, you know, we're going to ask you all about the insulation and encourage you to insulate wherever and whenever you can with, you know, the highest R value that you can. The more, the merrier with that. So typically with our quotes, we get them back, I would say within 2 to 3 business days. Sometimes they're same day as far as time frame for that goes. And we usually do carry a good stock of product, so we can usually ship same next day. Or if you are located in Minnesota, in the Minneapolis, St. Paul area, you can certainly swing out to our office and pick the product up as well. One thing I forgot to mention also with the Stereosorb is we typically don't ship that because the size of it is quite expensive to ship. So, but you can use pretty much any product that's out there. There's a ton of them out there. Just make sure it's again rated for radiant. With the quotes also, probably the most important aspect of the quote is the floor plan, the layout. And it doesn't have to be the best or to scale or necessarily exact. What's important for us is most of the dimensions on there, and we'll get you a CAD layout of exactly how to lay out the elements. Like I said, how to space them, how to wire them up, how far away we can be, what elements are going to be wired into each other, things like that. And what also helps us with the drawing too is obviously we don't need to heat every square foot of the floor. You can see in this example here there's a fireplace on the wall. The square in the corner there, or that room, it was a utility or mechanical room, so obviously we didn't need heat in there. So when you're sending in your drawings, just make sure you can always indicate where exactly you want the heat. Or if you're going to have a large object that's not going to move, we don't need to heat under that. Same thing with like in a kitchen, you have cabinets, obviously don't need to heat around that, so we can work around those objects for you. As far as resources go, some great places to look. Radiant Flooring Guide, new one came out recently for 2013. You can find that right online. Google it. It's just a magazine, and you can get the PDF, save that. It is free. The EPA is another good one. You can find a lot on off-gassing, health aspects, things like that there. And same with the Carpet and Rug Institute. They're going to let you know kind of what products and things like that will work better under or over radiant floors. And then the RPA as well is another good resource. And one thing too, if you do have any questions, feel free to just give us a call. And if we don't know the answer, we'll find it out for you and give you a call back or email you. But typically we can answer your questions that you have. So coming up, we have Steve Wallstead's going to be presenting next. He is going to be covering tile applications there. There's a large variety of different ways the element can go under tile, including in showers, wet areas, things like that. And then we have Tracy after that is going to be presenting on staple up applications. And we get that question a lot. We see people at shows. Not only are they fascinated that they could put the product under carpet, but also with the staple up applications. We have a lot of people that they did their bathroom, and at the time they didn't have enough money to heat the floors, or they didn't want to do the radiant system, and now they have this nice tile floor, but it's cold, but they have that unfinished basement and they have access to the joints. Well, we can look at stapling up the elements right to the subfloor there, and then that's another one where insulation is going to be key on driving that heat upwards through the floor. So we'd like to thank you for attending our webinar tonight. As our team there, getting done a little early here. And we'll open it up for some questions and answers. And my name's Andy, as I mentioned. Feel free to jot down my information and give me a call or shoot me an email. And like I said, if we don't know the answer or can't find it, don't know it off the top of our heads, we will find it and get back to you shortly on that. And also, if you are looking for a quote too, typically we'll send you that quote request form. But if you are looking for a quick quote, I mean, we can just do the ballpark figure off the square footage as well. I mean, what we typically need to know is, the square footage, what the finished floor is going to be, and we'll ask you some questions on, the insulation and, the connection, things like that, what type of controls they'd like to have. The coming up schedule here, we had our wood presentation last Thursday, as I mentioned. That is now available online at heatmyfloors.com. And then this presentation will be available online shortly on our website. We usually have it up, I'd say probably early next week sometime. And then coming up next, as I mentioned, we are going to focus on tile applications there. That's going to be with Steve Wallstead. That's going to be from 7 to 8 Central Time, March 28th. So mark your calendars. If you're already signed up, keep an eye out for emails, just like you got invited to this webinar. If you're not signed up, feel free to send us an email. Let us know you'd like to sign up, and we'll get you involved in that. And then on April 4th is going to be our final webinar for this series, and Tracy is going to cover that. And she's going to go over those staple-up applications that we just kind of mentioned. Again, that's going to be from 7 to 8 p.m. Central Time. So with that, I'll just go back to my information again. And I don't believe we had any questions. So again, I'd like to thank you all for taking part in the webinars, taking time out of your day. We certainly appreciate it. And have a good evening. Thank you.